Editing is one of the most important aspects of filmmaking. Once everything has been shot, it needs to be decided how everything's going to fit together. How long should each shot last? What shot comes next? Should there be a cutaway? When? Why? These choices all directly contribute to the flow of a film and its impact on the audience, so good editing is obviously very important. Particularly, I want to focus on associative editing, which is the juxtaposition of two contrasting images which can be interpreted as having an analogous thematic meaning. Essentially, meanings and associations can be created from multiple images grouped together which don't exist in any of the single images on their own. Soviet filmmaker Lev Kuleshov devised an experiment in the 1920s to illustrate this, juxtaposing the same shot of a man's face with different images, each sequence eliciting a different response. For example, using the shot of the man's face alongside a shot of food to give the impression the man is hungry, or alongside a shot of a reclining woman to give the impression of lust. This demonstrates what came to be known as the Kuleshov effect. Alfred Hitchcock probably explains it better than I do.
Now we have a close-up. Let me show what he sees. Let's assume he saw a woman holding a baby in her arms. Now we cut back to his reaction to what he sees, and he smiles. Now what is he as a character? He's a kindly man. He's sympathetic. Now, let's take the middle piece of film away, the woman with the child, but leave his two pieces of film as they were. Now we'll put in a piece of film of a girl in a bikini. He looks, girl in a bikini, he smiles. What is he now? The dirty old man. He's no longer the benign gentleman who loves babies. That's the difference. That's what film can do for you.
For me, one of the best films for showing this technique at its best is Nicholas Roeg's 1973 horror thriller Don't Look Now, in which this kind of creation of meaning through juxtaposition is evident throughout, right from its very beginning. The film tells the story of John and Laura Baxter as they try to deal with the accidental death of their daughter Christine in the family home and have gone to Venice as part of John's work restoring churches. In Venice, they meet a blind psychic Heather and her sister Wendy, who convince Laura that they have a message from Christine. In the opening sequence, Christine, the daughter of main characters John and Laura Baxter, drowns, and this sequence introduces the audience to the three main images and associations that appear throughout the film: the colour red, water, and glass. The sequence features John and Laura inside the family home, cross-cut with shots of their two children playing outside, out of sight of their parents and a fair distance away. We see Christine's red raincoat reflected in the water, followed by a graphic match cut to the fireplace in the home. Then shortly after, a close-up of a red hooded figure in one of John's slides, graphic match cuts to a shot of Christine and her red coat reflected in the water. Already the film is hinting at the importance that water and the colour red is going to have in the film. John spills a glass of water on the slide, causing the red dye on it to run and create a large red shape, and in the climax of the sequence there is another graphic match cut from this slide to John pulling Christine out of the water. The red shape on the slide appears fetal in nature and matches Christine's body position in the following shot. The shot of the slide is intercut with John pulling Christine from the water in anguish and is shown multiple times, cementing the image in the mind of the audience. Glass and water are also prominent in the opening sequence, with a telling cut that marries the two together. A shot of Christine's foot splashing into a puddle is followed by an immediate match cut to her brother cycling over and shattering a pane of glass on the ground, creating an association of fragmentation and adding an idea of violence to the displacement of water. The film creates various associations using glass, water and the colour red. The images of the mysterious red figure in Venice in particular will create associations with Christine and her death. The colour itself becoming a sculpted aesthetic of connections influencing both character and spectator. Glass and water become linked through their shared reflectiveness and transparency, and the breaking of glass itself becomes a powerful image. Whenever we see a shot in which glass is broken, it marks a dramatic incident, whether fatal, like Christine's drowning or John's murder, or near fatal, like John's fall at the Mosaic. As pointed out by John Izod in his book The Films of Nicholas Roeg, the power of breaking glass is further underlined in the scene where Laura faints in the cafe and knocks over the table. After fainting and knocking the table and its contents to the ground, we cut to a shot of 2 glasses on the floor, still intact, and following this accident, Laura recovers and seems in better health and mood than before, strengthening this association and the importance of glass in the audience's mind. It's not always negative though. The editing of Don't Look Now also contributes greatly to the audience's impression of the strength and love of John and Laura's relationship, and the closeness of the family. For example, in the beginning of the film, Laura puts her hand to her mouth and there is a graphic match cut to Christine making a similar gesture outside as she plays, and in the same sequence as Christine throws her ball in the air, there's a cut matching this motion to John throwing a packet of cigarettes to Laura. Shots of this type help to emphasise the closeness of the family and drives home that they are intrinsically linked members of a single unit. This is not done to appeal to our emotions, but to force the viewer to relate to their plight on an intellectual level. In John and Laura's sex scene, this feeling of love and tenderness is deepened as shots of their lovemaking are cross-cut with them getting dressed and preparing to go out together afterwards. The passion and intensity of their lovemaking is juxtaposed with the normality and peacefulness of their preparations for their evening out on the town, and the association created by the use of these images is that there is love and tenderness in even the more banal aspects of the Baxters' relationship. There are many other examples of associative editing throughout Don't Look Now, and they generally work towards creating a feeling of uncertainty and ambiguity in what we're seeing. One such example is when John is in a police inspector's office and talking to the inspector about Heather and Wendy. The inspector looks off frame and there is a cut to the 2 sisters outside in a courtyard seen through the window as if matched to the inspector's eyeline, but we cannot be sure if this is what the inspector sees as he passes no comment on it. Another 2 examples of this type of ambiguity are delivered through shots of the sisters placed at opportune and sinister moments. The first example comes as Laura implores John to come visit Heather and Wendy with her as they attempt to contact Christine, and John refuses. Laura says
she's gonna try and reach her.
And there is a cut to the sisters laughing uproariously in their room, and then back to John and Laura's conversation. This of course appears unsettling, as the laughter appears to be in response to Laura's belief in their abilities, but no ulterior motives are revealed during Laura's visit to the sisters later in the film. A second example occurs when John is working and inspecting mosaics which had recently arrived. Our sense of his vulnerability increases as he climbs up into the tower and an unexplained vignette of Wendy cackling is superimposed over a builder's light. These shots paint the sisters as something sinister and underhand to be suspicious of, but as we will come to see, this is not necessarily the case, as Roeg's montage does not say that 2 shots are connected, it says that they might be. We are shown carefully selected images which create specific associations and cause us as the audience to react in a certain way, but we do not realise the true nature of these images and their importance until the film's conclusion. The first time someone watches Don't Look Now, they'll probably fall into the same trap as John Baxter himself, believing the visions of the red-coated figure to be related to Christine, but soon they will realise what was important and what was misleading through the sequence at the end of the film in which John is murdered. A small woman in a red coat slashes at John's throat, and as his death throes are intercut with images we've seen throughout the film, they create for John, as well as for us, a retrospective journey that shows the intuitive connections that might have been made. We see Laura, Christine, John and Laura's son, Johnny, Heather, images of the water of Venice and the pond in which Laura drowned, the slide with the red-hooded figure, glass breaking and rainfall. The recurring images of red, water and glass are all seen again, with, for example, the violent associations of glass reiterated with a graphic match cut from John breaking a pane of glass with his foot to the shot of his son Johnny running over a pane of glass in the garden that we saw earlier in the film. Through the associative editing throughout the film, we are misled, just as John was, that the figure in the red coat was Christine, and this slideshow of images as he dies shows us the associations we had made may not have been as clear or telling as we thought. The choice of shots throughout the film, their placement and length, and the juxtaposition created by these choices all contribute to the power of the associations they create in our minds. As we've seen in the examples throughout this video, we can safely say Don't Look Now is a masterful example of associative editing. Do you know any examples from other films using this same kind of editing to create meaning? Please comment and let me know.